Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we ponder what happens in a story once the credits begin to roll. On today's episode, we will be reviewing the movie The Big Lebowski. This film follows Jeff the Dude Lebowski, who after being mistaken for a millionaire, seeks restitution for his ruined rug and enlists his bowling buddies to help get it. This movie is rated R for pervasive strong language, drug content, sexuality, and brief violence. For right now, you can catch this movie on Netflix, so if you haven't seen this movie yet, you could definitely check it out there. But as always, spoilers ahead. So, Marquise, why don't you go ahead and tell us the dude's story?
Yeah, so this story, as we mentioned, follows the dude, right? He's your typical kind of looks like a stoner slacker image.
He's like your typical Californian, you know.
Yeah, right. Like he just kind of chills in a house room all day, wears flip flops, like drinks, smokes, and like just relaxes. His whole persona is that of just being chill, like being the dude. And so, very, very chill guy. He ends up having people break into his home and almost like take him hostage and speed him up and like ask him for like a bunch of money, saying he needs to pay back the money. And then they take a piss on his rug. And he's sitting here like, I don't have any money. What are you talking about? Like, I don't owe you anything.
Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money?
Yeah. He's asking for the money, Lebowski. He's like, I don't have any money. And then they're like, wait a minute, isn't this guy supposed to be a millionaire? And he's living in like a small, trashy apartment. He doesn't have a wife. Like he doesn't fit the description of the guy they're supposed to be looking for. Turns out they went after the wrong Lebowski. There's a different Jeff Lebowski who's a millionaire. And so after they realize they're the wrong person, they leave. And the dude is just like, hey, you guys pissed on my rug. Like, I need a new rug now.
And really
so
brought the room together.
Yeah. And so the dude now goes to the millionaire Lebowski's house, like, hey, some people looking for you, like, peed on my rug. I want you to give me a new rug now. Like, I need restitution for this rug. Mm-hmm. And this pretty much starts him on a whole journey of him. Like, in order to get restitution for this rug, they want him to, the kidnappers end up kidnapping the Big Lebowski, which is like the millionaire. They end up kidnapping his wife. And so in order to get, money, like they want the dude Lebowski to like go and like do the like, transaction situation, all of that. And just the story just goes on and on of basically like, in order to get restitution for this rug at all, he just has to go through these series of events and like being the middleman between people, doing all this. And it just kind of, as the movie goes on, it gets this more complex web of him just like being in a situation that he has really no place to be in. Yeah. And he's just a super, relaxed, chill dude. And as he's going through all these people who are like fighting over money, fighting over this, he's just kind of like, come on, man, just chill.
I know.
That's basically it. That's basically the movie.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely, it's funny because I've always heard of this movie. This movie came out, this is the oldest movie that we've done for the podcast. It came out in 1998.
Really? Dang.
Yeah. It came out in 98. It takes place in the early 90s. Like they say in the opening sequence that like this, it was like early 90s when during like the George H.W. Bush administration, like when they were in Saddam Hussein. Actually, Saddam Hussein makes not the Saddam Hussein, but like Saddam Hussein makes a cameo appearance later on in the movie. But this movie had made such a huge impact on the industry. So many movies reference this movie from even from kids movies like the Goofy movie. There's like one of the characters.
I was gonna say, what's the Goofy movie reference?
Max. So Goofy's son Max like the movie that he goes to college. He has two friends. One that's like
great movie, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I love that movie. It's definitely underrated.
Yeah.
He has like this bigger friend, and then his other friend that's sort of like stoner vibes, and like he's wearing like the stoner dude, like he wears sunglasses indoors, and like he's just like a total like the dude character. He even says like a line from the movie, like "That's just your opinion, man." Like I
Oh,
actually
really?
thought that was I
That's
thought that
great.
was from that movie, but it was actually from the Big Lebowski.
That's
To
so
like
great.
even I think of like other places where it's been. I think of like I don't know if you caught on to this, but like Due Date, because I know you really like the movie Due
I
Date
love that movie.
with
I just started watching
Robert
it a
Downey
couple days
Jr.
ago.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but like remember when they put the dad in the coffee can?
Yeah.
Like that's like a nod to the Big Lebowski because
Oh,
they put
yeah.
Donnie's ashes
Oh,
into
wow.
a coffee can. So like there's definitely like traces of the Big Lebowski throughout the industry, and so like for that I give it a lot of credit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild, actually, how big that guy. I didn't even realize it was that big.
Yeah,
That's
that was
insane.
like literally the first thing I thought of when I saw that he was in a Folgers can. I was like, I don't remember if it was a Folgers can, but I know it was a coffee can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like yeah, it's just wild.
I
Like
love that movie.
there's so much Big Lebowski references and all over the place. Like you could like I feel like I forgot the name of the TV show, but I know there was like a show that was out years ago that was only around for like 3 seasons, and they were trying to sprinkle in like Big Lebowski references throughout the entire show.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, it's definitely like a huge take on like pop culture and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's an incredibly big show, and like so many people have told me to like watch the film, watch it, and I didn't. It just didn't seem interesting. I tried it the first time, didn't really get it. But I watched it the second time with you, and like I was like, I finally like I got it. Like the movie's still weird. It still has a lot of like weird moving parts to it, but it's really like all the events that are happening are really just scenarios so you can see the characters flourish. And my
Exactly.
God, did they create a great list of characters?
I know.
Like,
I was watching like an interview with the Coen brothers, the people that made the movie, and they're like, "Yeah, this is like the plot is like secondary. Like the plot doesn't really
yeah,
need like we just have a plot so that we can like you said, like portray the characters. Like it's more so like I know when we were describing like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like we were describing like how it felt like the character like the scenes were just individually shot and like there was no real plot
yeah,
to it. Like that's kind of the case with the Big Lebowski almost, where like the story that's going on like truly doesn't matter. It's just
uh-huh.
more so seeing like how like how
How
you
the
have like
characters
a
deal with situations.
Vietnam vet be best friends with a hippie. Like it's just super funny to me. It's just
And
super
like
funny.
by far, the relationship between the dude and his best friend Walter, who's a Vietnam vet, is the best part of the movie. Like to me, it's
I
like not
know.
even a question. They like specifically whenever his friend Walter is on screen, it's like okay, I'm just nominating for like a laugh. It's just the best, dude. It's so funny, dude. He's
what's your
so funny.
what's your favorite scene? What's I mean, I know it's like a really I don't know. I feel like that's a
I
tough
mean,
question. Like, what's your
it
favorite
might
scene?
for me, it might be the one where Walter's introduced.
Yeah.
So you first meet Walter at a bowling alley. So I think it's right after the dude is like dealing with his rug pissed on and all that. He goes to the bowling alley for his bowling group or whatever, right? With
Yeah.
him and two of his friends, Walter and Donnie. And so he goes there and you meet Walter. And Walter's played by what's his name? John
John
Goodman.
Goodman.
He's played by
John
John Goodman,
Goodman.
right? And Walter is just a dude. He's a character to the fullest. Like Walter is. How would you describe him, Mandy? I don't even know how to describe him.
I mean, Walter is like I mean, he's a Vietnam vet, but like he's just so it's like he's complicated, but he's not complicated because um like he's like I don't think he's an alcoholic, but like he just is
No,
like
he's like an
super
egotistical maniac. I don't
yes,
know, bro. Like
he's aggressive. Like I
he's
think
very
that's like the
aggressive.
best word I can think of. Like he's aggressive. Like he like has like a gun on him at all times, even in a bowling alley. A dude Smokey steps over the line and he threatens him with a gun for
Oh,
step like
it's just probably the best scene. Best scene that I saw is like, yeah. So they're
my
all
favorite
bowling and just
Yeah, it's just wild. No, it's just so like he's just, but it's also funny because like he has a soft side to him because like
100%, yeah.
He's first like you kind of see he's divorced, and so like you never see his ex-wife in the film, but she's referred to a couple times, and so like first he's like looking after her dog, and like everyone's like, why are you looking after her dog? And like what's funny is like he refers to it as I think is like one super small dog, but it's actually like a Shih Tzu or a Yorkie. I think it's a Yorkie, but he refers to it as another breed, which I thought was pretty funny. And then he also was like, the big thing for him was that like is the Shabbos. He can't, he can't answer the phones, he can't drive, he can't do anything. But then you find out that he converted to Judaism, which like sidebar, like convert Jews are Jews, but like it's just really funny how like in this context they're like, no, he's not Jewish, he's just a converted Jew. But like
he's like, why? He's like, wait. So when we get divorced, all of a sudden I'm no longer Jewish.
Exactly. Just like he converted to Judaism because of his ex-wife, and like exactly what you said. Like I'm no longer Jewish because like I'm no longer married. Like that's not how it works. And like, you know what? Like you got a point there. Like when I moved cities, I'm a sports fan. Like when I move cities, I don't instantly start supporting the hometown team just because I live in a new city. So like he's got a point there, but like it was just really funny.
It's so funny.
My favorite scene is the homework scene when like they like because he starts off so nice. Like I rewatched.
You can't even recant this scine to you, to be honest. Too much of it because
this scene. I rewatched it this morning just by myself because I was just like I just need to.
It's a great scene.
What happens is that like the dude's car gets hijacked, and so like the police find it, and the dude finds a 9th grader's homework in it, and so they trace it back to the kid's house. And Walter is just like in like a suit and tie. He's still wearing his his yellow sunglasses, but like he's like really nice to the mom that opens the door. It belongs like the house. Guy. The house.
That's the sweetest we've seen him so far.
Exactly. The house belongs to like a writer, like a TV show writer. I think the show's called Branded. And so like he's like the dude, the guy who wrote the show, he's attached to an iron lung. And so he's like, if it makes you feel better, sir, like we are huge fans, like we really love the show Branded, especially the earlier seasons. And then the sun comes out and they take out the homework in this like Advent style plastic bag. And he's like, is this your homework? Is this your homework, Larry? And he's like, the dude's like, of course this is homework. We're trying to find the money. He's like, is this your homework? Is this your homework? Have you ever heard of Vietnam, Larry?
I know you probably hear us laughing. You're like, "What are you laughing? This is not funny." You have to just really watch the movie to see how funny these scenes are. Like, we really can't do them justice. John Goodman is so funny.
The funniest, the best part of it is like afterwards, he's like, "I'm going to show you what happens when you F the neighbor in the A," and it's just like, oh my god. And he just goes and takes the crowbar and starts smacking up like the nicest car in the neighborhood, and he's shouting it as loud as he can. Oh gosh!
Turns out it's not even the kid's car; it's someone else's car. And like it's just a whole. And like so, here's the thing between Donnie and the dude that's pretty important is that Walter and the dude that's pretty important is that Walter is truly trying to help. Yes. He's truly trying to be helpful, and he's truly wanting to be a good friend to the dude. The problem is Walter is so delusional. Like he's just beyond delusional. Like the scene, like
everything to Vietnam, like everything.
Like, no matter what, he
finds a way. He finds a way to connect it to his experience in Vietnam.
and the big thing, like as we mentioned with the first scene, when you see him in the bowling alley, and he gets mad that another guy on the other team steps over the line, and the guy's like, "Hey, it's an 8, scored an 8," and Walter's like, "No, you stepped over the line. That's a 0." And he's like, "BS, that's an 8." And so the guy's like, "Hey, write down an 8." And Walter's like, "No, do not walk on a 8, dude." Like he stepped over the line, and they kind of keep going back and
forth. This is bowling. This ain't Vietnam. This has rules.
That's the whole thing. this is bowling. This ain't Vietnam. This has rules. And like finally, when the guy reaches to like write an 8 on his marker, the dude, Walter pulls a gun out of his bag, and he starts like, he's like, "So help me God, if you mark that with an 8, I will shoot you right here." If you've ever seen that meme, and I saw the meme way before I saw this movie, so when I finally saw this movie, I finally explained the meme. But that meme where it's John Goodman with a gun, and it's like, does no one care about the rules anymore? Like that came from this movie, and I was like, oh, that's where this came from. You know,
like I said, like this movie has had a huge impact on pop culture in more ways than we realize, and so it's just it's huge. Another way that this movie has impacted pop culture, or at least I don't know how much impact it has, but it has had some impact. And why I think The Big Lebowski is such like a powerful movie in a sense is that like there literally was a religion based off of the movie, like that formed after the movie. And so I did a little bit of digging. I didn't do too much. I wish I did some more. But in 2005, this journalist by the name of Oliver Benjamin founded Dudism, and the official organization is the Church of Latter-day Dude. The Church of Latter-day Dude. So I've seen like a couple video interviews, and he describes Dudism as like the modern version of Taoism, which is basically like go with the flow, like, you know, basically just like chilling, you know, don't let life get too like, you know, just take the high road, be chill, stuff like that. And like the funniest part to me is that you could be ordained through this church. Like, so
is it, would the dude be Jesus then? Like,
that's what I mean. Honestly, they do compare the
wise words of the dude.
They do compare the dude to Jesus a couple times in the movie, and like I think the biggest reference to the dude being compared to Jesus is by I don't know if he's like the narrator or like, but like there's like a guy that plays like a cowboy, and you see him a couple times in the movie, but he's like, you know, when you first start the movie, he's the one that's introducing the dude to you. Like the dude has a beer with this guy, both like in the middle of the movie and then towards the end of the movie. And at some point, I think it was towards the end, that he like says that the dude is, you know, taking on our sins, or referring to like the dude taking upon their, like everyone's sins so that everyone can have a good time and stuff like that. So they do compare the dude to Jesus in a couple ways throughout this movie.
Yeah. Okay. That narrator, that was a really interesting thing too. He narrates the beginning and the end of the film, but then he also randomly shows up in the middle. Yes. That's what's so strange to me.
Yes. And like it's funny because it's tough because like when is he telling the story? Because like he's obviously becomes part of the story once he's introduced in the middle, and it seems like the events haven't fully unfolded yet when he's like talking to him at the bar at the bowling alley. And then like at the end of the movie, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I was with you all the whole time, and so I guess I know what happens throughout this movie. So yeah, that the cowboy narrator, I think, is one of the most mysterious characters in this movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's a really weird, strange character that kind of just comes out of nowhere. There's another very weird, strange character who's only in the bowling alley. You only see him, I think, in 2 scenes, maybe 3. His name is Jesus. Or Jesus.
Nobody mess with the Jesus.
He is a trip. So there's a whole kind of background. It's not even a plot really, but just a little side plot, I guess, of this bowling tournament that's supposed to happen. And, you know, they're getting ready, they're getting warmed up for it. And then there's this dude in like an all purple outfit who has like a special bag for his ball, like all this stuff like that. And it's just a super eccentric character called Jesus. And I don't know, like he he's just hilarious. They have so many characters in this movie that really don't have a purpose. Like once again, because like the plot doesn't matter. So like they don't have a narrative purpose. They're really there just to show you like these really creative and fun characters.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's one of them. Like he really doesn't do anything. He doesn't drive the plot by any means. He doesn't put pressure on the plot by any means. Like nothing. He's just there for whenever they're in the bowling alley and you need some like a fun character.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think the bowling alley is kind of an interesting place because like you know, throughout all the craziness that happens, like they always are like, you know what, let's go bowling. Like after Donnie dies at the end, they like say let's go bowling. A couple like after the money scene when he's trying to give away, like when Walter's trying to help the dude give the nihilists the money, like halfway through with the car, like they're like, let's just go bowling. So like bowling is almost like a sacred place for Walter, the dude, and Donnie. But what's actually kind of interesting is that you never see the dude bowling. Like the dude has a bowling ball.
Once.
The dude has a bowling ball. He's at the bowling alley, but like you never actually see him bowling. So like I wonder if it's more just like the act of going to the bowling alley and just being with his friends is more so like what he likes and what he needs to have.
The relaxedness of it, you know?
To like go with the flow nature of it or what?
Because you're not, unless it's your turn up, you're sitting there chilling, talking with your teammates, hanging out. So like, it's a very dude type of sport. Like if the dude's gonna play a sport, it's gonna be one where you can just sit down and talk and chill for the most part.
I know, right? I'm thinking that, or like maybe golf. But it is also kind of
even golf is like, more work because you got to walk around and carry. I don't even think you golf.
I mean, not if you have work. I mean, you could have like a golf cart and have maybe Walter drives it. Can you imagine Walter driving a golf cart? Oh gosh, I would. I'm not.
Even golf seems too classy. Like the dude is such a like stoner slacker type personality that bowling is just like, oh, we're chilling at the bowling alley, we're drinking on the bowling alley, we're like, eating some pizza. Oh, my turn up? Okay, I'm up real quick. Like, it's just such a relaxed chill.
It's just funny because, like, I mean, in that opening scene, it's funny that I wasn't really intending to do this, but, like, it's really funny because, like, in that opening scene when, like, he's getting attacked and they're like, where's the money, Lebowski? And then, like, the bowling ball falls out of the bag. It's just really funny. It's like, clearly you're not a golfer. But I just thought it was just really interesting. Really interesting how like the bowling alley is referred to, like people go there all the time, and it's almost like a really relaxing environment, even though you see people constantly knocking down pins. I'm not ready to get to,
that's kind of wild.
I'm not ready to get to like my predictions part just yet, but like I would absolutely love like a Big Lebowski spin-off film, like standoff with just like Walter. Like, I think that would be...
They need to bring him back from...
I think that'd be hilarious. I think that'd be so funny if they did, like, a spinoff with just, like, Walter.
Yeah, like, the dude's cool, but Walter... Like, if it wasn't for Walter, I probably actually would not have enjoyed the movie nearly as much as I did.
Definitely. Well, I think it's their... their chemistry. Like, they're complete... Yeah, they're complete opposites. Dude is, like we said, go with the flow. I don't really think the dude is by the books, whereas Walter is like very much like he's like, this ain't Nom, there's rules here, like you gotta follow the rules, stuff like that. So I think that Walter is just like the complete opposite of dude. I think that that's where like the nice chemistry comes in, because you don't have two super aggressive characters, it's two super chill characters. You've got the dude who's going with the flow. And then I'm not saying that Walter is like the person that like is the catalyst that drives the plot, but like he definitely like pushes scenes forward.
Exactly. Actually, that's very a good point. Like in all the really major plot points or scenes that keeps driving the movie forward, the dude is actually pretty reluctant for the most part, and it's always Walter like, hey, we got to do this. We got to attack him hard. We got to attack him now. We got to attack him aggressive. Like everything is hell for him. It's like he's back in Vietnam. And so he's getting dressed up too. He's putting on outfits. like Walter is just, he's a hoot.
Yeah.
At the very
Yeah.
least.
Another sort of like fun fact for this movie is they were trying to get the rights for certain songs.
Hmm.
And I forgot which song it was, so makes it slightly less fun. But they were trying to get the rights for, I think it was like a Rolling Stones song, um, in the movie, and they were originally going to be charged $150,000 for the rights to use the song. And so
Jesus.
instead of doing that, they showed like early cuts of the movie to like the person that's like in charge of the rights of the song, and they
Hmm.
showed him the scene where the dude is in the cab when he goes,
Hmm.
I flippin' hate the Eagles, man. And he like instantly was like, you could have the song for free. Like as soon as he
What?
saw that, as soon
Are
as he
you
saw that,
serious?
yeah, as soon as he saw that scene, he's where the guy where the dude's like, I flippin' hate the Eagles. He's like, you can
Hmm.
have this song for free.
That's hilarious, dude. This movie is so strange in so many ways.
Yes, and we're like literally not even talking about like, I would say about like 60% of the movie. Like we're not even talking about most of the movie
No.
here. There's so
Well,
much
okay,
like it's tough because like there's so much to it. And I think that like what's funny is I've heard, I don't know for sure, but I've heard that like, I mean, Bunny's green nails, I think when that movie came out, the like toenail, I don't know if it's polish or what paint, whatever, for like the people wanted that color green because of the
really?
dude. Yeah, like sales for that color toenail paint went up
That's,
because of the Big Lebowski.
that's another great scene with Walter too, where like where dude's like, "Hey, like it's a toe. Like if they set her toe, they're serious." And Walter's like, "That could be any toe. This
I
could be
can get
any
you a
toe.
toe.
And please,
I
I
can
can
get
get you
you
a
a
toe. I
toe.
can get you a toe within an hour. I'll have you a toe within an hour." That's just who Walter is, dude. I know. I've talked about him so much, but honestly, like if it wasn't for him, this movie would be lower than whatever rating I'm gonna give it at the end.
That's
But
fair.
he's such a good character. But Andy, so there's one thing I wanted to ask you about. Like, so
Yeah.
like I said, we've talked about this already for a little bit, but we haven't even really touched on a majority of this movie. And I guess my question to you is kind of like, how do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about the fact that like so much of what we like in this movie is so concentrated in such a small part of it, to be honest? Because there's multiple plot lines, there's tons of other characters that come in, but for the most part, like it kind of still hangs all its weight on just like a couple of characters and the relationships.
Yeah. So I think I think the Big Lebowski benefits in a lot of ways. I think if this movie were to come out today, it would not be as successful,
Really?
um, because it came out in the late '90s. So like, this was actually something I was thinking about earlier. It was just like, first of all, certain jokes just don't stand up like to the test of time. Like
Mhm.
they use like inappropriate like phrasing for they use like an inappropriate racial slur towards the beginning of the movie for Asian Americans. They like make like I don't know if it's necessarily like a transsexual joke, but like they just make like some pretty
Mhm.
inappropriate jokes that like for the
Mhm.
time like people thought it was acceptable,
They're
but
pretty acceptable at the time, but
pretty
yeah.
acceptable at the time. But like now, you kind of scratch your head a little bit and turn your head. So I think if it came out now, that they would need to probably change some of the jokes. But also just like I think this movie's almost 2 hours long,
Mhm.
and with such a convoluted plot, I feel like you're gonna lose the average moviegoer. I think this
Mhm.
movie, no matter what age it comes out, like I think if you love movies, like no matter what time period this movie comes out, you're gonna love this movie, which is gonna
Mhm.
go into my rating.
Mhm.
But like I think because of how convoluted the plot is, I don't think it would be as popular today as it was back then. That being said,
Sure.
the movie is so funny that even some of the jokes that they would have to change, like the rest of the jokes are so
Yeah.
hilarious that it carries the film. Like it just straight up
Yeah, by no means does a movie rely on like inappropriate jokes. So it just happened to be a
no,
few,
exactly.
but
They
it
just
doesn't
happen
rely
to
on
be
it
in
by
there.
any means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like this movie, if it wasn't funny, it would be a flop. But this movie is so funny.
Yeah.
So like it carries the film. I've never like I've had movies that just like hurt my brain
Mm-hmm.
and I've hated them. And this is probably the only film I can remember off the top of my head that like hurt my brain because of how convoluted the plot was, but I still thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so this plot we kind of mentioned, I kind of mentioned already in my description, but like it really goes a ton of ways because he owes these kidnappers money, but then these kidnappers, it's like who, like there's a bunch of stuff like who's the real kidnapper, and then it's like there's these like nihilists who are like apparently the kidnappers but not really, and then like there's the Big Lebowski himself, and then like what's his role in this whole thing, and then there's a wife, and then there's the Big Lebowski's daughter who we haven't mentioned. Her name's Maud, and she actually plays a pretty intricate role in like getting the dude to like do certain things and like help get the money and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's just there's something with like a porn company. Like this whole thing is just so strange and so convoluted that like towards the end, I will say is when I kind of like was not enjoying, because beginning and middle, I would love this movie. Towards the end is where I stopped enjoying it as much because they were kind of, I mean, even though the characters are still, being great, they're kind of more so just like tying together and plot points, which were nonsensical to me in the first place. And so it was weird.
That's definitely the downside to this movie is that like it almost would have made more sense to just end the movie with as many plot holes as possible
Honestly.
than to do any sort of attempt to end it, because to wrap them up, because like I agree with you, like as I think my brain started to hurt more towards the end than it did like in the beginning. No, because like even because for the most of the movie, even though the plot is very weak, like you could still follow it along. Like it's a typical like Bunny gets kidnapped, and so like they're trying to catch up, and like the dude actually realizes like pretty early on that like it could be fake. Like he doesn't really buy it for the most part. So like it could have been just that, like the dude sort of digging deep and exposing like the whole conspiracy there. But it just gets so deep with like the porn company getting involved, with Maud coming into play, and like it's like, and then there was another character that like Bunny's parents were actually trying to get her to come home, and so like that was part of the kidnapping scheme, was like they were trying to get they're trying to peer pressure Bunny to come home, and so like there's just so much stuff going on there. Like if they were to stick with the whole like simple kidnapping, not actually kidnapping plot, like that would have been fine, but they just like added, it was some things need to have layers and some things just keep it simple.
Oh, but I mean, I wonder if maybe on like as a creative direction for the directors, Coen Brothers, if that actually made sense. If you make the plot kind of so convoluted that you kind of really stop focusing on it. Yeah. It's so convoluted that like you recognize at a certain point, like you don't really care what happens. Like that's what I noticed. Like as I'm watching the movie, like I didn't care whether or not the dude like was able to like even get his rug back. I didn't care whether or not the girl got kidnapped, because like you don't meet her. Like you meet her once. Like you don't really care for her.
She's in it twice. She's in the beginning, and then she's
sorry. But you meet her. You only meet her once before she gets kidnapped.
Yeah. You're right.
You only meet her once before she gets kidnapped, and then the whole time, like you don't really care about if the Big Lebowski gets his money. You're not really scared of the dude dying or being threatened from anything. Like there's really no stakes for anything, and you're not invested in how this plot turns out. And so I wonder if that was just so purposeful, considering that as they mentioned, yeah, like they're focused on the characters. So I wonder if giving a very convoluted plot kind of makes you more focused on like, man, like just the situations that these characters are getting in is hilarious.
Yeah, I think it is. And if we were more adept, if we were like expert film analyzers, we could probably find all of the hidden meanings in all of the scenes because there's a
Mhm.
lot. And there's a ton. If you are really interested in like dissecting the movie and stuff like that, there are tons of YouTube videos out there, like breaking down. I think one of the theories, like not theories, but one of the things that people talk about is how like every major character is essentially like a fraud because
Mhm.
like we look at Jeffrey Lebowski, the millionaire Lebowski, like he is like super pro jobs, like he's like I earned everything I got, but then you find out that
Mhm.
he kind of was given the millions, like he never actually truly earned the millions.
Yeah.
Um you find out that like, you
Or
know,
that actually he was broke, right?
yeah,
And
he
like he
was
was
actually
using money through
broke.
the charity fund. Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually
Yeah.
broke. You find out that like, you know, Walter through all of his like tough guy sort of things and like the Shabbos like stuff like that, you find out that he actually is like a converted Jew and not like a born Jew,
Mhm.
which again, like converted Jews are real Jews, but like just like how intense he is sort of interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
like how intense his devotion is
yes,
wild.
exactly.
Oh, in fact,
Um,
wait, there's one verse that reminds me. There's one scene I really like. Where not Walter, the dude just figures out something big, like a big brick in the case, and he's like, Walter, I need you to come pick me up. And then Walter's like, is this an emergency? And he's like, yeah, this is an emergency. He's like, really? And like as he's picking up, as he's driving in his car, he's like, so can you please tell me the emergency? And the dude's like, what? And Walter's like, could you please tell me what the emergency is? Because as you know, this is a very sacred, special day for me where I shouldn't be working. And right now I'm here picking you up. So can you please explain to me why this is an emergency? And he's like, well, they found out this person did this and they did that and that. And he's like, okay, I get that, but how is this an emergency? It's so funny. He's just kind of like, okay, I get what you're saying, but why is this an emergency? Why does this have to be done today? Which is so funny because he's usually the one pushing things so fast. And so for him to be like it's just such how seriously he takes this, because there's another point where there's a bowling competition that's supposed to be scheduled and it's scheduled for
yes,
Saturday and he flips out. He's like,
yes, he's like, I can't
I
do
told the
that.
scheduler I can't do Saturdays. Why would you do that? It's so great.
Yes, it's super
Honestly,
funny.
watch this movie, dude. Like y'all need to watch this movie just for these scenes. Don't care about the plot. Don't care about what's going on. Just watch the movie and you will laugh.
Are you ready to go to predictions?
Let's do it.
All right. So, jeez, I'm. This movie ends in the most, like we said, the beginning and middle are really solid, and once you get towards the end is when it gets really like what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm gonna I'm gonna do my best to describe like the close to the end of the movie. If you want to add more, that's fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
what happens at the end of the movie is the nihilists come and they are trying to get the money from the dude Walter and Donnie. And they get
Mm-hmm.
into this huge epic fight in the parking lot because like they don't have the $1 million. And first the nihilists are like, okay, well, we'll just take all the money you have now. But then they realize when they realize that they don't have that much money, they're like, we're just gonna kill you guys instead. So
Mm-hmm.
Walter takes a bowling ball bag and flails a bowling ball at one of the nihilists. Uh, the dude gets into a fight, is like fighting one of the dudes, and Walter is fighting the third one. And you just see Walter like bite the ear off of one of, like full Mike Tyson style, like rip the ear off of one of the nihilists and like beats him up. And then he walks over to the other nihilist who's fighting the dude and like smacks him in the back and knocks him out. And then you hear Walter go, "We got a man down over here." And the dude's like, "Oh my gosh, Donnie's been shot." And he goes, "Oh no, he's just having a heart attack." And so, sure enough, the Walter finds a way to relate it back to Vietnam as he's trying to get the dude to get help. Unfortunately, Donnie does not make it, which is really sad. Steve Buscemi, R.I.P. So they are at the beach, and you don't really know too much about Donnie other than the fact that he's like kind of like a tag along friend, I guess, with Walter and the dude. But you find out as Walter is giving like the eulogy that that Donnie was an avid surfer. He loved to surf up and down the coast. He turns the eulogy into, again, another reference for Vietnam, but it was more so like grief-stricken Vietnam than like him trying to bring up Vietnam. The dude's like gets mad at him because he's like, dude, what does Vietnam have to do with any of this? But they hug it out in the end, and they decide to go bowling. And they go back. They end up at the bar. And this is where you see the cowboy dude one last time. And the dude abides and does the best that he can, and trying to make sure that he can win this bowling competition. And the cowboy sends us off to the ending of the movie, and so I think that it kind of goes back to a sense of normalcy, and you get to. I think the next big adventure is watching the dude and Walter having his epic bowling match against Jesus and Jesus's friend. And you just like, I feel like a fight breaks loose because Jesus has like this like huge, not Jesus Christ, but Jesus the bowler has like this huge ego to him. And so like I could see like maybe Jesus steps over the line, or he does something that's not allowed, and Walter is just like clocks his gun again, and he's like, "This is rules," all this stuff, and like it's just like a wild match for the semifinals.
It is scary how close our predictions were. So mine also has to do with Jesus and them bowling. So what I see is for a sequel. This movie, they take what they did right, which is the dude and Walter, and they really focus on that for like actually being almost the whole second film. They get into this tournament with Jesus, and yes, like for the last bowl or something, Jesus goes and bowls and does it for the win, and it's a strike, but he steps over the line. And Walter's like, you stepped over the line, it doesn't count it, whatever. It goes through this whole thing again, pulls a gun out. This time, Jesus is like, I'm not scared. And then Walter's like, well, there are rules. Bam! Shoots Jesus in the head in the middle of the bowling alley. And then Jesus is dead. And now the cops are coming in. The dude's like, Walter, what the heck? And Walter's like, we gotta go. So now Walter and the dude are on the run. And the whole movie is them trying to stay away from the police while the dude's like, what'd you get me into, Walter? Like he always does, so.
Okay. I like where you're going. I'm going to turn it down a couple notches. I don't know if Walter really... I don't... Okay, Walter... As I was about to say this, I was like, no, Walter definitely would, like, kill Jesus.
He just killed somebody. He just killed somebody earlier.
But I'm still going to dial it down a little bit. And maybe he doesn't kill Jesus in the bowling alley, but a big part of the movie was, like, Jesus... Well, not like a big part, but the big part that had Jesus... when Jesus was in the movie was like Jesus like drying off or like doing something with his bowling ball. So maybe instead of killing Jesus, he steals Jesus's bowling ball. And so like it's like
I like that.
Yeah,
and Jesus is trying to get them.
Jesus is trying to
that'd be great.
And what I think would be really funny is if they'd have to find a different character now, because the person who played Brandt is no longer, the actor who played Brandt is no longer with us, so they would have to find a different actor to do it. But I would love if they
Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, I know. Ugh, so sad. But if they could recruit his character to become like the new Donnie figure, because like I don't know, I think Brandt is kind of like a little like servitude. Like it's not like he doesn't like he's like a little servant to Jeffrey Lebowski. So I would love to see like them recruit Brandt as part of their trio somehow, some way, and just like them try to escape Jesus trying to mess with him, because like we said, nobody messes with Jesus, and so Jesus probably has some sort of posse behind him that's gonna like track the dude and Walter down to get the bowling ball back.
Okay, I like yours better. It's fine.
I did what I love to do. I combined our theories, so I like it. I like it a lot. So for those of you who this is your first podcast, welcome. And for those of you who have already been with us along the way, thank you so much for your support. We have the popcorn bag rating scale. where we compare 1 to 10 rating through bags of popcorn. And so if we give a movie a small bag, think of it as like 1 to 3, not really worth your time. If we give it 4 to 6, if we give it a medium, think of it like a 4 to 6, like it was good, have it in your watch list, but you can get to it later. If you give it a large, it's definitely worth being towards the top of your watch list. And if we give it a big bucket, it means stop what you're doing, leave the bowling alley, and watch this movie. And so, with that being said, Marquise, where does The Big Lebowski fall on our popcorn rating scale?
Yeah, so for me, I'm gonna give this a large, just a solid large. I know there's probably a ton of people who feel like this deserves like a big bucket or whatever. Honestly, I thought it was really good, and as you can tell from this podcast, I really liked it. But I don't think it's worthy enough for big bucket. I do think there would have needed to be a better plot or more interesting or something in order for me to get that. The characters are great, but then there's a lot of side characters that are kind of just there and don't really do anything. It seemed like this movie is such a great work, but it's not like perfect. Like there's definitely things that could have been tidied up in my opinion. But nevertheless, in terms of just like raw potential, this movie had a ton of it. And nevertheless, even with the things we didn't like about it, was still great. And casting is probably the best part. Everyone who got cast in the roles did amazing. They were funny. They were everything they were supposed to be. And so, I mean, it's a solid large. What about you?
Yeah. I think if I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I just thought of another prediction that I just like would like dive down like before I give my rating, but like it's really quick. Like I just towards the end of the movie, the cowboy is like talking about how Maude is potentially pregnant with the dude's baby. And so like I would have loved to have seen Maude be a bigger character in the film, and also like Maude's like storyline not be as complex or that like out there. Because like I think like while yes she does, like her character provides a lot of depth to the movie, it's just one of those like, in my opinion, unnecessary storylines that doesn't need to be there. And so it's tough. Like part of me wants to give this, I'm going to probably make a couple people mad, but like part of me wants to give this a medium. But I think I'm going to give it a large with no butter, just a plain large. It has such a huge impact on society. The reason why I'm going large instead of medium is just because of how much impact it's had on the industry, how many movies have tried to make references towards it, how it has like this is some people's favorite movie.
A lot of people actually,
a lot of people's favorite movie. And so like even though this wasn't necessarily one of my favorites, it's definitely not in my top 5 or even my top 10. I can still like appreciate the impact that this movie has had. And I think if you're an avid movie fan, like you need to have The Big Lebowski on your watch list. Like this needs to be there because of just how much it's framed the movie industry post late 90s and stuff like that. So I'm going with a large. I think if it had like a simpler plot or less storylines, that this could have easily been a big bucket for me. But again, just with how convoluted it is, I feel confident with it being a large.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Cool.
So with that being said, what did you all think of our continuation of The Big Lebowski? Do you agree with us? Where is your sort of happy place? For the dude, it was the bowling alley, so I'd like to know where y'all's happy place kind of is. Do you agree with us? Please follow us on Twitter at Poppin Predict and on Instagram at poppinpredictions.pod to let us know your thoughts on how you think this movie could have continued. If you haven't heard by now, we are on YouTube, so go ahead, check us out, subscribe. Click that ring bell, whatever it is, a notification bell, so this way you know whenever the movie comes out, whenever our episodes come out. Until next time, keep popping, everyone.
Peace out. 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 Peace out.